My name is Chris Peters. I'm the 11th of 12 kids and born in an isolated area on the Klamath River here in Northern California. I was born close to where the village was, where the traditional ancestry had evolved, and lived there for a period of time. Moved on to the Hupa Reservation, which at that time was the big, more developed area. You know, you're raised in a Native community, but not really identifying it as a Native community. It wasn't until I actually left the reservation, left the Native communities, you know, do you develop a perspective on tribal identity, you know, the separation of it. I mean, Indians were all around us, so it was almost taken for granted sometimes. I think the phrase that you grew up with is "hold your head up high." I mean, just, you know, you should be proud of who you are as a Native person. And repeatedly, you know, elders would say, you know, no matter what, you can always hold your head up high. I mean, that's, you know, be proud of who you are and what you do. And I think that's sort of a concept that stayed with me over the years. You know, what you do and what you get involved in is do your best, you know, provide for your family, take care of things around you, and be proud of your Native existence. And I think in other communities we see that identity process maybe being undermined to the point where that pride in oneself is not there. But I think we look repeatedly in Native communities, you know, throughout the Americas, and we see various levels of that ethnic pride, you know, and certainly our work here at Seventh Generation Fund is how do we bolster that? How do we, you know, build the cultural systems and rebuild the communities to be able to have Native people be proud of who they are. With Native folks, we understand that our existence is significantly different than other folks. I mean, we understand a cosmology that we grew from this land, that we've been here forever and ever and ever, and that relationship with place, and, you know, that familiarness with the area, and knowing that this particular mountain or this particular rock is enshrined in our legends and our traditions, and now stands testimony to our existence and our identity. From those legends and from those traditions, we hear that repeated over and over again, that this particular mountain, whatever it may be, or this section of the river was where a spirit person performed a healing, or this particular place, a rock where a spirit person assumed the image of the rock and still is there in that rock. And knowing those legends and knowing those places affirm or reaffirm on an ongoing basis who we are and our connection to the land, where I think non-Native peoples don't have that reaffirmation. They're cut loose from the earth to wander and have no place to be. You know, we look at home as where our belly button is buried. You know, this is where that connects us to the earth, and that connects us to place, and that place becomes our identity and who we are. So I think that in terms of being Native is extremely essential. And that's at one level I think Native peoples all over the world, indigenous people all over the world, can relate to. I think the next level of that relationship is enshrined in spiritual understandings, and how do we express our religious understanding through ceremony, through prayer and through place. And here in Northern California, there are specific places that have concentrations of power, of spiritual energy, of a force of nature that through observation we understand that to have power, and have that over time Native peoples look at that power and understand how we can utilize that power. How do we achieve that power for humans that brings us closer to the earth? These spiritual places, these what we refer to now as sacred places, and more that Native peoples, indigenous peoples all over the world are beginning to raise their sacred places up as being something that we should not damage, should not desecrate. And sometimes they're at the crux of the modern world and the indigenous world, where the modern world has no regard for the sacred, and the indigenous communities say that sacred place has an energy and has a power that brings us closer with the spiritual world. And through a ritual, through formulas passed from generation to generation of prayer, of meditation, of singing, of dancing, of fasting for long periods of times, maybe 10 days, maybe longer, until you reach a point where there is a connection with the spirit world. And that connection reaffirms who you are as a Native person. It also provides some awareness, some understandings that you don't have when you enter those areas, and establish the foundation of who we are as indigenous peoples of Yurok or Pulikla folks, and provides the foundation of our ceremonial life as well. From that connection with the spiritual world, help guide our carrying out ceremonies. We're world renewal people. We understand through ceremony, through a process of prayer, we have two primary ceremonies. The white deerskin dance, we use albino deer for renewing the earth. And we also do what we call a jump dance, or Wela Wela Ga. It's a ceremony with that we use to heal the earth. And through those processes, we make the world new again. And that those are both 10-day ceremonies. And growing up, you know that they're there without sort of that full understanding of what that means of world renewal people. We're put here for no other reason, other than to make that world over again. I mean, that's our purpose in life. Our purpose in the world is to make sure those ceremonies are conducted to make the world new, to stop making the world new again will result in the desecration of the world. I think the ceremonial life provides the optimism, provides the hope, and throughout indigenous worlds and indigenous peoples, we're the keepers of that optimism, that we understand that if those ceremonies are continued, then the world is going to be okay. And even in contemporary thinking, there's been a lot of work done on a time when there is going to be a new life, a turning point, if you will, from folks that are so structured around mechanical thinking that suppresses their ecological awareness completely, and go through life with blindfolders on in terms of developing corporations and extracting resources. And looking at it, we always see maybe a race toward the end. I mean, change is going to happen either by force or by will, and through that optimism we can hold that change will be made by will,